Morning, Michael. Let's check the stream. How you doing, Mike? Mr. Superback back in town for another round. How you doing, friends? Those of you who like costly cardboard quadrilaterals, the Magic the Gathering card, the ones that come in packs that you get to crack and shuffle up into stacks of decks, brews, and crews who like the Magic the Gathering news. Thanks for joining me here. It's Wednesday. We're doing a little bit of Magic the Gathering talks and discussion. I'm ready for some Magic news with the Pro Man. Nice to have you with us. How's my audio working here this morning, Michael? Little check on the stream here this morning. Nice to have you with us. Wherever you're joining us from, whether it's Mississippi, Ontario, Mississauga, Ontario, or maybe you've got your eyes closed, so it's just Mississauga, Ontario, or Mississippi. I'd like to thank you for joining us here on the morning stream. If you know what I mean, watch the amount of Halloween candy you consume this year. You want to keep your ghoulish figure. Sounds good. All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Feels good. It's nice to be here. Understood. We have no time to waste, and I know your time is valuable. So thank you for joining me in the place where we talk Magic the Gathering, we talk prices, we talk news articles, we talk what's moving and shaking in the world of card prices. There's been a lot of discussion these days about speculation on the reserve list and commander cards, unbanner cards, cards that make price charts move. We like to see that. It's one of the most exciting parts of the game for me. I like to get up each and every morning and take a look at these lists. I've been doing that for years, and I wanted to make a stream for folks who have fine taste in costly cardboard quadrilaterals. So this stream is for you. It's got everything from soup to nuts, including the kitchen sink, and maybe a little bit more, a couple of stock market puns, and some jokes for you blokes who are tuning in, no matter where you are, tuning in from around the world. Maybe you've got Brody dragging along the bumper of the car this morning, or perhaps you got me on the dash on your way to work. Maybe you're just hanging around at the water cooler, chatting with some friends about what you're going to do this weekend. No matter where you are, I want to thank you for tuning in, dragging me along for the ride here this morning. It should be a good stream. It's the middle of the week, a short week because we had a holiday on Monday, but that's all par for the course. Hot dice. What's up, Brody and the crew? Nice to have you with us. Shaking some hot dice here this morning. Feels nice. We're moving on up the stream algorithm. We're just about at that 400 subscriber mark. So anybody who's tuned in over the last month when we covered the shorts, the ABCs of MTG for my favorite reserve list cards, should we do it again? I think we should do it again. A to Z. Maybe we'll spice it up on some of those lists. All right, before we get started, I'd like to just warm up on the stream a little bit here because, that's how we do things when we're talking Magic the Gathering cards. We're talking cardboard, card prices, card discussion, and anything that's got to do with Magic the Gathering card prices. Let's head on over to the Robo Rosewater site right now just to take a look at some of these AI-generated Magic cards to wake you up this morning. Andrew Crewcamp, good afternoon. Nice to have you with us. Andrew, new viewer, thanks for joining. First-time commenter, long-time watcher. Been a fan of your work for years. Cardboard Splendor, nice to have you with us in the stream. We're going to warm up here. Brody's got to get the chops limber. When we take a look at some AI-generated Magic cards, we're going to do some pass or fail real simple. If you've been here before, I know your time is valuable and you don't have time to waste. So if the card is playable any way whatsoever, we'll pass it. We'll hear this sound. How's my dinger working this morning? Let's hit the button. Just check. The dinger is dinging, the stream is singing, and if the card's got gibberish on it, if it's non-functional, if it's got junk text on it, we'll have to give it a thumbs down. Thumbs down. All right, if you don't know your name, this card's for you. Let's take a look here. You and the crew. This one It's got no name. Oh my goodness. Do we have to read it all, Brody? It can't be a magic card. There's no way this card is got the comeuppance of a Magic the Gathering card. There's so much text on it. It's an instantment. It's an instantment. All right. Should we read it? This has got a lot of text on it. It's going to be a little tricky here. Fat a painter creature, ton Tauren creature to the beginning of the battlefield. Exposit the battlefield. You mind 5 late a non-name and can't do it. This thing's got so much gibberish on it. It's a 4/6 and it's got no name and it's an enchantment. Can't stand you. This magic card. It's non-functional. It's got junk tax on it. No instigation required. No instigation inspired. This one's the Selesnya Planeswalker Garruk with all kinds of ups and downs and middle rows. It's got an ultimate on it, -6. This is a 6 loyalty Planeswalk here. And it comes into the battlefield with 4. Oh, can't stand you, right? Comes into the battlefield with, is that you, T-Bone? Nice to have you with us. T-Bone, tuning into the stream here. All right. +1 is untapped target creature. -2 untapped 2 target creatures. They can't be regenerated. And then flip a coin. If you win the flip, next time you would die. Exile it instead. And then +1 for +1 for draw 2. Then reveal the top 2 cards of your library. Then draw 2 cards. If the spell was kicked, instead choose a player, return that permanent to the owner's hand. -3, create a green beast food token. If can't do it. The art on it's pretty good. I like the picture on this magic card, but it's just got too many ups and downs, and some of it doesn't quite work for what we're looking for out of a Planeswalker, let alone something with AI generated. Magic cards, what's this? Non-functional? And then the second one, non-funk. All right, good morning, Michael Superbacker. Is it still raining out there? Is it snowing where you are? Grab yourself a cup of Superbacker here this morning, a couple of waffles for you and the captain. Because this Breaking Assassin is the 1/1 that you need for your deck. It costs you black and 1 for this elemental creature. It's black, and it says when Breaking Assassin enters the battlefield, target player discards 2 cards, then draws no cards and loses 2 life. For white and 2 until end of turn, Breaking Assassin becomes a 4/4 creature. Activate only if there are 5 or more mana values among creature cards in your graveyard. Gotta get my mana up here this morning. Gotta ramp into this one. Draw 2 cards, then discard no cards, and then lose 2 life. Why would you say it? Just say draw 2 cards and then lose 2 life. It's all right. Needless to say, do we have to have the moot explanation of the downside that's not there? Perhaps. All right, let's give it a thumbs up. It's the first one of the morning that we could have potentially passed. It's got a little bit of gibberish on it, but it's not too bad. I think it's mostly underpowered for the most part. A lot of people say it's overpowered. This one's it says a lot of people saying that this one's got too much jam in your ham. All right, what about this one? Brune Cutthroat, bruning and swooning over the stream here this morning. Let's make Brody a little bigger. Brody's just about the right size. Brody's growing here. Let's eat a mushroom. Just like Super Mario, this Brune Cutthroat costs you a white and 1. You get a flash flying creature. It's got power and toughness on it, 0/4. So it's a wall of types. Flash flying when Cutthroat gets +3/0 for each artifact you control. So okay, you can buff its front side. Whenever another creature dies, return that card to its owner's hand. Hey, it's a replay for white and flash flying. It's gets pretty big on the front side if you got some mana rocks or some artifacts in play. What's this one? Overpowered? 86% of you folks say this one's overpowered, but how could the unholy cannoli. I think Benson was commenting on this one on Twitter X, and it says, rather this one be called the unholy cannolis. But the Oki Unholy Cannolis is a sorcery for red. It costs a red and 3, and target creature gets plus 13 until end of turn. If it was kicked, it deals 18 damage to target player, planeswalker, and the kicker costs 4. It's nice and raining. Nice rainy day every now and then makes you feel cozy. You can use it as an excuse to stay inside and go through your Magic collection. Indeed. We got Gaming Bob here this morning. Nice to see you with us, Bob, coming in from Ohio. I'm glad to have you with us. Volume's low and robot voice, but I still love you. Okay, volume is low. Let's check the volume. Volume. How's the volume on the stream here this morning? Maybe we want to turn that up. Crank it up. Turn it up to 11. I don't want to be peaking. How's that, Bob? Are we up there where the air is clear? Can you hear me near and dear? All right. Robotic voice. Robotic voice. Check my equalizer. That's mucho better. How's my tones? I added an equalizer to the stream here, so I can I can check my hums and my haws and my peaks and my valleys. Oh, the robotics are gone too. All right. Well, what about your unholy cannolis? You want to deal 18 damage to a player for a kicker cost of 4? Maybe you want to give something plus 13 plus 8. I don't think this is all too bad. It's just a lot for what you pay for. Just a lot of good stuff. A lot of upside, no downside. This one will pass it. 4 mana, I want to give something plus 13 until end of turn. All right. What about this one? Lie Autumn. Your autumn stream here this morning. This is October 16th. We're drawing nearer and nearer to the ghoulish time of year. Have you got your trick-or-treaters all lined up? Have you got some candy on board? Destroy target non-land bats. I never found any bats. This one's black and 2 for Lie Autumn non-land bats. All right, the land bats are safe. Don't worry. Okay, non-land bats. I suppose it's feasible, it's pleasable, it's possible. It could happen. The gang is never share. Chandra Nalar. Lie Autumn is bad, but it's playable. It is situational in a deck where your opponent's running land bats, maybe animated a land into a bat, and that's about the only way it's going to become ineffective. So this it checks out. How about this one? A kitten. Smitten for kitten here this morning. This one's a white, green, and 1, and you get a 0/1 cat mantling. For a green and 1, you can tap it and put a human's creature from your hand onto the battlefield. Ooh, humans getting really good. It reminds me of a news article that we've got here, and I'm going to cover it here this morning. Speaking of humans, I am not a human. It's not the tuma, it's not the puma, it's not the kitten, it's not the cat. It's a dance cat mantling friend of Alkalots. Play it, ship it, and grip it. All right, what do we got here coming from the rocks desk? I know there's humans in the stream here. Humans making news. Humans making news. Card could be banned soon. Where's our article on humans? I thought we had one. Articles, news and other features. MTG Future Sight card. That seems like a good one. But I thought there was something to do with humans. All right, we'll check into that here a little bit while we run up some articles. This is your morning Magic the Gathering stock show and talk show. Where's your latest speculation? Where's your money, Brody? Where's the money going, Brody? What are you funneling it into? What's the reserve list got for us? Oh, the kitty is adorable. It's a good card. Good job, humans. All right, let's take a look for some human articles. They're more human than human. We got an interesting article from the stock desk. Maybe we'll start there. We're going to take a look at some of the Mad Card Commander staples out of Duskmorn. And for all you blue players, we got another possible article that we want to look at. I've been talking a lot about Commander lately. Why do I focus on Commander? Well, it's been getting all the love and attention from the prices of Magic cards. It seems to be the format that drives most prices these days. If it's playable in Commander, that's the measure of a Magic card, and if it's whether any good or not. So without further ado, let's take a look at this interesting Magic the Gathering article here. Speaking of humans, found it. MTG Humans deck revived by Bizarre Bird. All right. Perhaps the Alkalat's human card is going to be the one for you. So, what's been revived in Magic the Gathering? Let's take a look. Humans deck getting a little bit more love and attention. Thanks for Zachary Fink from the Rocks Desk bringing us this article. Mono White Human's been a well established archetype and pioneer for a long time. And with a solid mix of aggression and threats and creature-based disruption, the Humans deck does a good job of using tempo to keep its advantage. However, prior to the announcement of the bannings, the Humans deck had mostly fallen to the wayside, and competing with Abzan and Malia combo proved to be extremely difficult for the archetype, and luckily, the bro is here to cover it with you folks. Rakdos Vampire is out of the question. This strategy has been able to rise from the ashes. Rakdos Vampire is falling to the wayside. Interesting. My Blood Tithe Harvesters are just going to sit in my collection and melt and turn into dust. So interestingly enough, the most powerful and popular variant by far is now Azora's Humans. Thanks to an incredibly powerful birdie from Bloomberg. The Humans deck is back and better than ever to help identify what makes this new edition so impactful. First, we need to revisit the deck as a whole, and the Humans core has Thalia's Lieutenant. I do like the Humans. The measure of a good Magic card. Thalia's Lieutenant, you get a 1/1 for 1 white and 1, and the creature human soldier says it enters the battlefield, you get a 1/1 counter on each other human you control, and whenever a human enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Lieutenant. All right? So a decent card from Shadows over Innistrad, Commander 2020. This card is boosting and brawling its way into Humans decks, and at its base, it's a typical aggro deck here, rewarding the type tribal, the human tribe. Your goal is to curve out as quickly as possible with a 1-drop slot, hopefully Initiate or Recruitment Officer, elite players, and early plays. They get the first 1/1 counter going, and hopefully this is incredible, easy ramp to your deck, as there's plenty of 2 power creatures in the deck, and Recruitment Officer acts as the new Savannah Lines with an upside of attrition battles. Dauntless Bodyguard. This is another card from Dominaria United that was actually quite fun to play. It rounds out the 1 mana slot, another 2/1 that you can play on turn 1, in case you thought it's also a nice follow-up to play your potent 2-drops and 3-drops in some matchups, like the Izzet Phoenix. Protecting your Thalia Garden to Thraben can be a nuisance to your opponent. Now, in order to remove the Thalia, they have to spend the extra mana, first kill the Dauntless Bodyguard. And our elite cards worth defining and defending include Adeline, the Resplendent Cathar, and Brutal Cathar, both 3 mana plays that can be devastating. The opponent can't get rid of them immediately. But filling out your deck almost entirely with humans, you're going to have availability to abuse multiple lords. And we're going to be talking about the Mockingbird here this morning, because this is the card that's starting to put humans back on the map. And it's this Mockingbird here. Is this a clone? It is a clone. I actually kind of like the look of this card at the first face value. It's a clone for 1 blue and X, and it's a bird bard that says flying, and you have Mockingbird enters a copy of any creature on the battlefield with mana value less than or equal to the amount of mana spent to cast Mockingbird, except it's a bird in addition to its other types and has flying. So a pretty cool bird bard here. This one costs 1 blue and X, and you can copy anything on the battlefield. So it's kind of a decently balanced card. What's making this so good and viable in the Humans deck? Well, it differentiates itself from any Humans deck of the past, because that is the splash of blue that makes the splash just a little bit of splash in the pan here. In fact, the only blue card in the whole deck is the Mockingbird, and at first glance, it can seem a little bit silly. Why go out of your way to add a blue card? Well, it seems really strong enough to warrant missing out on some cool utility lands like Castle Arvindale. But in short, the answer is actually yes, the bird can be non-human on the surface, but it does everything you want at a minimum. You can use the bird to copy one of your 1-drops and make it more likely you'll get to play 3 1-drops on the first 2 turns. It makes your lords more impactful. And speaking of which, if you already had 1-drops lined up, you get the luxury of saving the Mockingbird to copy your Thalia's Lieutenant and Copper Coat Vanguards against creature-heavy decks like Selesnya Company. This can break open boards and stalls. Are you breaking open the stall here this morning? If you hit the bathroom, this card is the one that can break open the stall. On top of that, your copy will have flying as bonus and make it an excellent in matches where other humans mirror you. And from the ground up, gets gummed up, you can play the Mockingbird to copy your opponent's threats. You even got the opportunity to copy these Skyclave, Apparition, Shoulder, the Apocalypse, and any very enticing finishers that your opponents may play. This is a primary use for the bird because it not only adds a card's flexibility, but it acts as a strong one drop of 13 through 16 while simultaneously giving you a stronger play in the late game. The value in this cannot be overstated. Finally, well positioned, Thalia Garden of Thraben. Okay, Thalia, this is that hoe over there. The hoe you all know, this one is a 2-1, and it costs a 1 white and 1, and this thing is a stacks piece. It's also a human, and it says non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. So in a creature build deck, this thing's quite good. It can be quite a pain in the butt. I've lost many games to this in Modern back in the day, but now perhaps Thalia, the Garden of Thraben, is also well positioned in the humans build. Good morning, Captain Waffles. What's up to my waffle-eating friends here on the Magic the Gathering morning stream? And we got Benson in the house with a comment. Mockingbird can copy an animated Darksteel Citadel. If you want to, why not? Okay, so why is Thalia so well positioned these days? Well, at the end of the day, an additional Mockingbird to the archetype helped the humans archetype make a recent surge. The metagame shifts likely played into an even bigger part. Creature-based combo decks can give this deck a fit that aren't too popular in the Asurarak, the Archlich dungeon combo deck being on the rise is worth mentioning. And meanwhile, strategies like Azorius Control and Izzet Phoenix that have increased their presence can be susceptible to fast draws from human. And Blazing Starts backed up by Thalia can give you a great shot at beating those matchups, as well as decks like 5-color Enigmatic Incarnation and the Lotus Field combo. It makes sense why humans is up and up and on the up and up. And Mockingbird only helps cause it. So if you've been looking for a good time to get on the white weenie bandwagon, now is your chance. This card seems like a buy. What's the price of the Mockingbird? We want to take a look here. What's the bird going to cost you? Bird is the word. That one's going to cost you. What's the Mockingbird? Price on the bird? I want to check it. It's cheap now. Reminds me of a card like it takes some time. Just straight up Mockingbird. Sometimes it takes a little bit for a set to come out. Like the Fairy Mastermind was a card that didn't get a lot of traction when it first came out the gate. A lot of people speculated on it. Another bird card that was quite good was the Ledger Shredder. I wonder where the Ledger Shredder is now. Mockingbird's $3.94 from the Bloomy Bloom Burrow deck. It's $4.50 in foil. Perhaps this one's a buy. I'd say put it in your keepsake collection. Video. All right, put it in your keepsake collection. How about now? That's probably better. There we go. The robot's back. Get this robot out of here. Just adjusting here, Bob. That should be better. All right, the Mockingbird's $3.94. Don't want to robotize you guys out of the stream here. I got too many windows and buttons open. But this one's $3.94. What did it open at when the deck when the set first released? It was up to $8. A lot of speculation on this one. I want to take a quick look to see where this one could be going. The Ledger Shredder, Way of the Shredder. Ledger Shredder. Speaking of birds, Shreddies. Oh, I could use a bowl of Shreddies here this morning. One of my favorite breakfast cereals, the Ledger Shredder, and a bowl of Shreddies. This thing's still coming in at $10.33. How's the audio there, Bob? Is that better? Did we fix it up? Did we get Mr. Roboto kicked off the stream? Should be just about. Should be clean and clear, just like the skies. Okay, this one here, Ledger Shredder, was up to $25. Another bird. If you want to build bird decks, this one could be the one for you. It's still holding strong from New Capenna. This one's a decent Magic card that costs a blue and one. It's hard to see where this thing goes. It could be the long-term type of a modern card draw engine that we love so much on blue. So it was between this one and the Fairy Mastermind. I want to take a look at the Fairy Mastermind. Can we spell it? What's the mastermind? I'm not playing the mastermind, but I should play it. It's $11, so these two are all in and around the same price point. The mastermind strictly better in Commander. The Ledger Shredder more of a pioneer or modern card, a card that can go hard and draw you extra cards. I used to try playing it in turns as an alternate to the Howling Mine effect, another way to draw extra cards. So this is a decent way to do it. So that keeps us live and in the money here this morning. $10 for the Mockingbird. How high is the Mockingbird going to go? I'm going to say $10. Okay, let's take a look here. What do we got moving and grooving? Moves and shakers here this morning. Modern Monday, Tuesday, Pioneer, Whopper, Popper, Wednesday. You want to look at a Whopper list? Popper list here. Why not? An interesting format. Popper has only got cards printed in. If you're not familiar with common cards for the common man, for the working slub like myself, the man who works for the work people he loves and does his duty, the Popper cards are the cards for you. You want to know what I would rather spend $10 on? Maybe a pack? What? $10 coffee and a coffee or two for Brody, as long as it's not from Tim Hortons. I think there's a boycott going on in Canada for that coffee spot. I make my coffee at home. All right, let's take a look at the movers and the shakers on the Popper list today. Some of these cards you may not be familiar with, but I assure you these are ones you're going to want to keep an eye on. Popper's an interesting format when you're talking the prices of Magic cards because everything is only legible and legalable when it was printed at a common. So sometimes you can see some of these common cards going for quite a price tag. It might be worth digging through your collection to try and find them. If this one is the format for you, it's quite fun to play, and some of these Popper decks can be quite powerful. Okay, then a slice of pie. I'll go for pie and ice cream and a cup of tea, maybe a morning cup of coffee with you, Bob. No problem. No problem, Bob. All right, card from Invasion. How many reprints is the Tangle theme? World Championship decks is $4.44. Highest priced copy of this from Invasion is $48. So some of the interesting cards that have foil printings that are little to known, a single foil printings. I did do a repack open years ago. I was so pissed when I opened my repacks. I bought, yes, Brody used to buy repacks. I did. Back before I thought repacks were good. There was some honest repacking of Magic the Gathering cards going on, and Brody thought he was going to get in on it. But Phyrexian Altar. I always think of this card, especially when we're talking about Invasion. Where are we here? Phyrexian Altar Invasion. So I bought a repack once upon a time, and then it said guaranteed to have some out of print cards in it. And then this card is the one that came in it, and it wasn't very hot. I was kind of downside disappointed at the time. I could look back and see what I paid for that repack, but here's a card that cost you $42 now. If it had hit the foil version, this would have been a $100 bill. Easy pleasy all day long. This card's been going up in price. And here's another interesting fact. If you want to pick up some if you ever see some packs of Magic cards and you're like, I'm just going to open one pack, maybe some loose packs at a pawn shop, there's some interesting pickups that you want to keep your eye out for. Sealed packs of Invasion, even the Urza's block, Urza's Destiny's got some rare foils in it. Shadowmoor has some really cool foils in it that I've only seen a single printing. And so do the Larwin block. Much like Mercadian Mass, when foils were foils, the Invasion set has some hits in it. And this Tangle is a pretty good representation of that because the foil variant's $48. So we got a 10x on the foil Tangle. What's it do? Well, it's a fog card. You play in your common deck, cost you 1 green and 1. At instant speed, you can prevent all combat damage that be dealt this turn. And each attacking creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step, which is an extremely good downside, especially against opponent playing a creature. Good morning, Sunshine. Nice to have you. The sun finally has come out, and I'm so happy to see the sunshine because it's the most beautiful thing I will see all day. I'm so lucky. All right, Tangling, dangling. Nice to see you dangling your comments in the stream here this morning. The Ed, the thinkingest man in the game of Magic the Gathering. What do you think on Invasion? Sealed pack starters. If I ever saw any sealed packs of Invasion, loose packs, sealed packs, sometimes I go to these pawn shops. Even my papa, I get my dad to scope out the pawn shops and the collectible shops and the secondhand shops, and sometimes they get a little bundle of Magic the Gathering, and then there's some sealed packs, and I've even bought random booster. I got some here on the shelf here. I got some random booster packs that came from a pawn shop or a collectible shop that they said, I said, give me, what do you give me for? I said, give me all of them. $200. So if you find any packs, sealed packs of Invasion, that's where there's some hits. These individual foils can be quite good. Even some Shadow More foils can be quite expensive. Could be some value in there. Decks using it. All right, Turbo Fog in the Pauper deck is where you're going to play it. This one here. We're talking Pauper Wednesday. For all you folks who like Pauper, like tracking the prices of Magic cards and like costly cardboard quadrilaterals, the Pauper format could be for you. If you want to play it on a budget or you want to bling out your deck, the Turbo Fog deck is quite a cool deck. I'll maybe throw in some turns in there. There's another card that I really like. It's called Riot Control. Riot Control. I think this is a card that I was playing in my Turbo Fog deck because this thing is backbreaking to play against, and it was a lot of fun because not only will you be preventing combat damage during that turn, this is a combo card that can be quite easily included in the Fog deck. This one's great because it makes your opponent take a whole, like, even if they do get a combat step, this one can make them all for naught. It says you gain 1 life for each creature your opponents control, and then you'll get to prevent all damage that would be dealt to you this turn. So on top of getting a boost and a tick up in life total, this can make your opponent have to hit you twice. When they finally get the Holy Day out of your hand and the Tangle Wires out of your hand, the Riot Control can make you gain life. And even though you don't take combat, then they're going to be scratching their heads saying, not only is he preventing all the combat damage, his life total is increasing. How are we going to stop it? A great card, especially in a control deck, a Fog deck. I don't know that it's listed here in the Pauper format, but it is printed at common from Dragon's Maze. I don't see it on the list here because this is just straight up a Bant deck. But if you wanted to add white to it, or a Simic deck, rather, if you wanted to play Bant Turbo Fog, this might be a card to include in it. I like to play this in like a turns deck with a card like Sphinx's Tutelage. Decent for an alternative win condition, letting you mill your opponents out. MTG Gaming Bob says, Dual Brain, I was watching your video about rarity and effects on vintage. Your premise is for the true scarcity of the cards legitimizing their value. And I agree. How about this one? GameStop is now news article for you. Let's just switch gears here to GameStop. I want to talk to Mr. Dual Brain about GameStop and grading submissions. So now, if you didn't know it already, the Bro is all the way up in Canada, north of the Wall. This is where the White Walkers dwell, right north of the Wall in frozen Canada. We can't really get anywhere to get our cards graded up here. Maybe Moose and Squirrel Grading Company. We'll give it five waffles. 5 out of 10 waffles for the Moose and Squirrel Grading Card Company. The GameStop company is now offering card submissions for PSA on behalf of clients. Would you use this service? Would you not use this service? I've seen a lot of chatter online. People even offering card cleaning services to submit your application. So this might be an option. I spoke to the Pac-Man over on the tweets and the twits here about sending in cards. He said, send them in yourself, pay the premium insurance. It'll be worth it if you ever want to grade. So this is some news in the world of Magic the Gathering when it comes to GameStop, the famous stock that was manipulated by somebody by the name of Roaring Kitty. Are you purring on the stream here this morning, and you've heard of Roaring Kitty, the fellow who was driving up the GameStop stock price? And people making money, losing money, all kinds of interesting things. So if you haven't followed the GameStop shenanigans, I suggest you do it. It's a little bit interesting, but it's nice to see that this card company is still around despite their stock price being manipulated to high heavens. Trading card game submissions. Grading for One Piece, Magic the Gathering, Disney's Lorcana, and Yu-Gi-Oh! If you ever wanted to submit your cards for grading, here's another way to do it. You can drop them off at a GameStop location. If anybody's gone ahead and done this, please let me know. I'm interested to know a little bit about it. But nevertheless, let's go back to our list of movers and shakers here this morning. Top of the list is Tangle Wire. Here's a great card, Utopia Sprawl. I like this from Dissension. Let's see how many printings we got. All right, plenty of printings. This is a card when I was just getting back into Magic out of Type 1 and Type 2. I sort of looked at the landscape. I said, well, what's good? There was a Ponza deck. This is a Ponza card. This is something that people just didn't want to trade to me because they thought I'd be stone raining their lands. The Utopia Sprawl is an enchantment that says you enchant a forest, and whenever that Utopia Sprawl comes into play, you get to choose a color. It goes on that land, and Enchanted Forest is tapped for mana. It adds an additional 1 mana, uno solo mana addicionale, to your mana pool of any color of the chosen type. This is a great card in Ponza. The most expensive version of this card is going to cost you $9.80 for the secret lair. Any other hits, bits, and bites on this? The Dissension's foil, I stand corrected, it's $12. So this is the money, Brody. This is the expensive one. Even card like this one in foil can give you a $12 bill. That's right. We're creating a new $12 bill. It's going to replace the 20, and this card will get you one of them. So the Utopia Sprawl, played in legal, Commander, Ponza, popular and modern, Pauper. Gruel Ramp is playing it. Slippery Boogles is playing it. And this is an interesting card to see on the movers and the shakers list. Why is it moving up in price? Well, people like to fix their mana base, and it does that just nicely for you. So this card's $11.92 in the foil version and $2 in the non-foil. I'm surprised to see it up there. I was picking it up for pennies when I was trying to build a modern land destruction Ponza deck. How about this card? Standard Bearer. This card, I can't bear to see it on the list of the movers and the shakers here. It's a card from Apocalypse, and it's had one reprint on the list. The foil version is quite expensive. It's up to $31. And this one here says, when an opponent is choosing targets as part of casting a spell or an ability, or they control or activate an ability, they must choose at least one flag bearer on the battlefield. So this is quite an interesting misdirection piece. It can be good in Commander. I think that's probably why it's pushing the price of this card. Quite a decent card. The foil version of this card is up to $31. Let's take a look at it. It had some price action over the last little bit. And yes, as we can see here, it was as high as $22 or $23 in and around Ixalan, kind of came crashing down in War of the Spark. Took a little tick up in price with the Fallout Boy making his printing known. And now we're back up to the $30 level. I don't think it's ever been higher. Flag Bearer, a decent card. If you have it, maybe it's the time to sell this card. It could be an indication that this card is ready for the market, Brody. Sell this card. $31 for a standard Flag Bearer. Is there any other flag bearers out there? Well, perhaps there is in the creature type, but we're talking Pauper here today, so that's kind of all we care about, the common cards for the common player. This is Boggles, Mono White Aggro, Familiars, Turgo Fog. An interesting card in the Familiars deck. I wouldn't mind playing a Familiars. Are you familiar with the Familiars deck? Where is it? Sunscape Familiar. This one here. This one can be also quite powerful. Green spells and blue spells you cast cost one less. This one's from the list. Look at the foil premium on the Plane Shift foil. This is another set that if you find any loose packs, there can be some goodies in there. A $10 foil. Plane Shift, Nemesis, Shadowmoor, Lorewind, some of these older sets that had foil cards, maybe just a rare spot and a rarity when foils were rare. That might be a good place to find some hits. I like the Snow-Covered Island. Why is it on the list here this morning? Snow-Covered Island? Well, moreover, this island could be overshot by the presence of Seat of the Synod and the artifact lands that could possibly see a tick up in prices. Reminds me to take a look at those. Let's look at the Seat of the Synoid. How do you say it? Seat of the Synod? Or the Seat of the Synoid from the Mirrodin block? I think these are also common. Yes, they are. Are they legal in Pauper? Yes, they are. This card's $1.55. I think as far as Pauper cards go, as far as islands go, as far as lands go, we take a look at the chart on these. They've been as high as $3 or $4. If you have, I've slowly over the years tried to pick up, one or two of these here and there when I see them at a store. It's also good trade fodder if you're making a trade and you need just like to get up another $1 or $2 in a trade for a player. These are worth picking up. It's worth mentioning that they are banned in modern, and some formats don't allow you to play them simply because of the affinity effect. But this card, it remains to be seen whether we're going to get too much many more reprints on these. Like we've gotten plenty of them in Commander sets up to today's date. The Secret Lair, holy smokes, this is an interesting card. Look at this, the Secret Lair. It's got brains on it, tentacles, brains, roots, and all kinds of other funny stuff. The Seat of the Synoid is not legal in modern, but it's worth picking up a copy of these artifact lands, the Seat of the Synoid, the Ancient Den, the Great Furnace, and all the other artifact lands, just to have like one on hand. I would say if you want to round out your collection so that you can be the Magic card player that's always ready to brew and always ready to build, especially with a new commander deck, that the Seat of the Synoid and all these artifact lands would be a good place to put $2. Mountain also on the top of the list. I think I'm just going to reiterate what I said about the Great Furnace. And leading the Stampede. This set symbol had me confused for the long time. This is a dual deck, and I always wondered, like, where do I get the dual decks, Brody? The Goblin Welder also has a printing in the dual deck. Another favorite of mine, the Goblin Welder. Where's the dual deck elves and inventors? Yes. So the Goblin Welder has also got a foil version for $12.03. If you ever wanted to weld something together, this one can do it. The dual decks, a little cheaper, especially when you look at the standard welder package here. The Legacy foil is $285. Oh my gosh, that's the money, Brody. Standard welder, $22. Secret Lair, $15. The Judge promo, $65. And then the D&D elves and inventors is $12. So that's the cheaper one. There are some decent stuff in the elves and inventors decks. This being one of them. Cheaper version of a welder if you ever wanted to get it. That's the one. Unfortunately, this one has the best art on it, in my opinion. So don't fear. There are other options for you when it comes to the dual deck discount. This one's 30 cents. Lead the Stampede says look at the top 5 cards of your library and reveal any number of creature cards from them. And put the revealed cards into your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library. So you get to look at the top 5. It's sorcery speed. It's a little bit slow. So, it doesn't grow your hand so fast, but it does do the task. It costs you 30 cents to get it, and I wouldn't sweat it too much. This thing doesn't look like it's going anywhere. Why is this on the movers and the shakers? Are we seeing any uptick in decks using it? Elves, Gruul Ram, Walls, all these decks at Pauper, 5-color Walls, all looking to go and get some creatures out of the deck and stuff them into your make your hand just a little bit thicker in the fingers here. You got Broad Knuckles. This one's for you. Get yourself a 30-cent copy of the Lead the Stampede. Okay, and then we got the Spell Stutter Sprite. Interesting. We're talking about countering spells here this morning. Oh, what the hell? Let's counter a spell. The Spell Stutter Sprite can do that quite right. This has got flash and flying. It costs 1/1, and it's 1 blue and 1 for something for you. This creature fairy wizard enters the battlefield and it counters target spell with converted mana cost X or less, where X is the number of fairies you control. This one enters itself, so it counters a 1 just on itself for fun. And this one, right off the shelf, gets things done. You're not going to have many copies of this in a commander deck, maybe just one copy. But if you're playing Pestermite or any commander staples that are also fairies, the Pestermite is another option. Pestermite, Larwin foil. Let's take it out. This might be the card if you're mighty and Friday. This one's Halloween and it's here in sight. This Pestermite is a fairy Rogu that has got flash and flying. And if fairies are for you, this Rogu can do. This one here is also got a 2/1 and comes into play. You get to tap and untap a permanent. This thing works with a Kiki Jiki and the Splinter Twin. So if you want to make copies of fairies, this one can do it at instant speed. This one, it untaps Kiki Jiki. That's right. So if you're getting Jiki with it, the Kiki can do that. This one, Kiki Jiki makes a copy of a token that's non-legendary. So you copy the Pestermite. The Pestermite enters. Then you get another Pestermite because you get to untap the Kiki Jiki and do it again. Maybe at that point, you're going to flash in your Spell Stutter Sprite. If you're comboing off with the Kiki Jiki and the Pestermite, now you've got all kinds of fairies on the board. And then anything that you want to stutter is going to be countered. All right, butter your bread and your waffles here this morning. We're spell stuttering. I've got another article that I want to go over with you folks here. Let's just switch roles here for a second. Switch roles. We're going to the polls. This article is up on the grassy knoll. Where are the latest commander for counterspells? Do we want to see counterspells? Popular counterspells, counterspells, counterspells. Another good news article here for you for counterspells. Counterspells you should be playing. No, it's over here. Other counterspells you maybe should be playing. We're going to take a look at this article here with a beauty from Casper Rankin. We're talking counterspells. Speaking of spell stutter sprite, we're going to be going over this article and counterspells in just a minute here. So if you like stuttering your opponent's spells, this article may be for you. Fairies, Fairy Macabre. This is another good fairy. I was playing this in Legacy years ago. It's quite an interesting card. It saw a couple of reprints. Holy guacamole! Look at this. All right, just like said earlier before, the Varl version from Shadowmoor is the OG version. See, these OG versions always fetch a premium price, and this one's quite high, $526 on this card here. This has got to be a mistake. There's no way you could make it. This card's been highly speculated on. Is people buying this card? Why is it so high? This got to be an outlier. Look at the chart on this one. We've got a Fairy Macabre. It's been flatlining here for a dozen years, like a decade. Hasn't done anything. It's been sitting around $28, and then all of a sudden Brody wakes up one morning and goes, "What the heck? How is this card not on the movers and the shakers list?" Right? It's $526. What's happened? This could be an anomaly and an outlier. You know, I've gone and done this. I wake up in the morning, I check the prices of Magic cards, and I see Fairy Macabre spiking to $526, and I say, I'm going to be smart. I'm going to be smart. I'm going to get out ahead of everybody. I'm going to go straight to the stores and try and buy it for cheaper. That could be a bad way to go. It could be a outlier. It could be a pricing mistake. Maybe somebody priced one that they wanted to sell for $52.66 and accidentally missed the decimal. That's possible. Did somebody sell a graded copy online? There's a $50 copy over at Card Kingdom if you can get it. They look like they're sold out, but the eBay can find it for about $63. So this is definitely, I would, if you can get 526, sell this card, but watch out. This is a spike. This is a trap. This is a pitfall. This is somewhere you can, false indications. All right. When we're talking about stocks, talking about the prices, Magic cards are some things you need to be aware of. Much like cryptocurrency, these things can swing in an instant. And the Fairy Macabre could be somewhere somebody could have your lunch and eat it right in front of you if you aren't careful and you know what you're looking at. They'll scoop you up and they'll bend you over and they'll give you a spanking and say, look, I'll give you a deal on this Fairy Macabre for $400. What does it do, though? It's quite good. It was playable in Legacy. You can discard it and exile 2 cards from a graveyard, so it's quite a powerful effect. Now, I'm not saying we're casting this card. It's a 2/2 for 3, and it's got flying, but this is the discard ability on it that makes it quite good, especially in Legacy. I could even see this being played quite heavily in Commander. Also has a home. If people are playing out of the graveyard and we want to reanimate things, you can wait for them to name targets and then just discard this. Very hard to interact with it. It is an activated ability because it's got the 2 colons on it. Yes, 2 butts on this, couple colons makes the Fairy Macabre an activated ability. By discarding it, you can exile 2 target cards, not at random. You get to target those cards. Citadel. All right, Darksteel Citadel, a card that I like to play with Crack the Earth. I don't know why. I used to play a Mardu deck in Modern. I actually won an event with it. Mardu Crack the Earth. It was quite an interesting deck. Crack the Earth costs 1. Each player sacrifices a permanent. Okay. And then Boom and Bust. That's the one. Complainer Chaos. Destroy target land you control and target land you don't control. So for 2 mana, you can destroy one of your opponent's lands. In a 2-player game, this could be quite good if you're playing the Citadel and that's your 1 mana pip. So you can get a turn 2 Stone Rain here. Target your Citadel and it can't die because it's indestructible. Destroy target land you control and don't control. Turn 1 Crack the Earth can put everybody behind. It was sort of a smallpox Mardu deck, and that seems like a good place to play it. Darksteel Citadel is a pretty good card. If you want to play a play set, of artifact lands. This one's another good one. It's $1.25. It can't be destroyed, so there's nothing people can do to break it. It's made of dark steel, just like the bro. Dark and tall, dark and steel, right? Okay, let's take a look at the price on this. It's been moving for a while. Pioneer card is it, and Soul Artifact. I want to take a look at the deck list here this morning. Gigantha, the Wellspring. This is the Gruul Commander. I like the other version on it with the horns and the antlers. Where are we here? Where's the Gigantha for you? Not that one. Ikoria, this one here. Gigantha, the elemental elk. This is a very Canadian card. It's got the elk on the shelf. Have you heard of elf on the shelf? Well, get ready for elk on the shelf. This Gigantha the Wellspring is a companion, and it's got all the mana colors on it, so you can tap it for a Wooburg, and it can use those mana. This mana can't be used to pay generic mana costs. So Gigantha and Pioneer loves the Dark Steel Citadel, hanging out at the Dark Steel Citadel, $1.25. What's the OG foil version cost? You want to pimp out your ride, then you can pay $16 for the secret layer version of it. Or you can pay, where are we, $2.80. There's a lot of cheap versions. The surprise this card's got so many reprints, doesn't see more play. Guess Verdict. I guess this card is good. I've got a little bit of a list this morning, and I'm guessing that the Gith's Verdict is a good card. Because we see it on the movers and the shakers. Is this the smallpox mana? It's 2 black. It's instant speed. Target player sacrifices a creature and loses 1 life. I like it. Pretty decent card. Decent because sacrificing a creature gets around target effects when you're targeting people's creatures with hexproof. This can even get rid of your opponent's commander if that's the only thing on the board. If you've got a good single creature, you can get it if you target that opponent. There's no way around it. They lose a life in instant speed. They get to sacrifice a creature. The Sholdrick's Edict is another decent card. Let me take a look at that one. These are the types. These are the types of removal that I'd prefer to play in Commander. Each player sacrifices a creature, each player sacrifices a token, each opponent sacrifices a planeswalker. This seems like a 3-for-1 on any day of the week, including today, Wednesday, October the 16th. This one says each opponent. I like cards like this, Vicious Rumors, and the Edict effect, where people have to sacrifice a creature. Liliana the Veil does the same thing. She's got that Edict effect. On the -1, I think it is. Yeah, -2. Target player sacrifice a creature. So that the Edict effect is quite good, especially in multiplayer. All right, keep that in mind. Guess Verdict. It costs 50 cents. You can get it in your deck. It's an interesting sack effect from New Pyrexia. What's the foil version on this one? $1.37. Only has 1 printing, and not including a list printing. This card could be quite good. A common. I think this one here, out of all the cards on this movers and the shakers today, I think this is the one I would pay. This one's $1.37. Maybe get the foil version from New Phyrexia, because these OG foils tend to do quite well long term. And the sacrifice ability, the Edict effect. This one seems quite good. Nice to have you with us. Today is October 16th, 2024. Magic the Gathering news, articles, and a lot more, including the prices. If you are one of those costly cardboard quadrilateral collectors, you can check out the stream when we're doing it and we're talking news articles. I got a good one for you. What are the counter spells you should be playing in your commander deck? Here we got an interesting article coming you by way of the stock desk, thanks to Arjen over in the Netherlands. For the premium membership, we like to take a look at those news articles that have been written and are given to us courtesy of the stock desk. I got an interesting one by Casper Rankin here this morning for all you commander players out there who are looking what to play what the heck, what to play in your commander deck. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, hit the chat button, hit the thumbs up, whatever you want to do. You can throw me a comment. What counter spells do you like play in Commander? What are your favorites? What are the ones that nobody's expecting? And what are some of the ones that you're collecting? The biggies. We know the Usual suspects. These are your usual suspects, especially in Commander. The free spells, the deflecting squat, the fierce guardianship, and what I always like to say is there's there's pirate ships and there's pirate ships and there's guardian ships and there's ships that sail the sea, but the best ships are friendships, and those are the ships for me. So we got fierce guardianship if you want to make or break friendships and relationships at a commander table. Mana drain and force negation. We're looking at counter spells. Those are the popular ones. But if you've been looking at some options to compare for use in your deck, like staple cards, of course, the most cards on this list you probably heard of and have seen in bulk pile at the store. But if you're looking for something else to build your next budget deck or go against the grain of deck building norms, these cards will slot in perfectly. So just play old counter spell. I know I said go against the grain, but it's the permission spell that started it all. I like Arcane Denial, especially in the commander deck, because it lets you draw a card. It does let your opponent draw two, but Arcane Denial is quite good because of some of the effects. Like if you've got perhaps you've got Smothering Tide out on the board. Arcane Denial is not on this list, but I'll put it up. I used to play this Arcane Denial. Brody can't spell. Arcane. There it is. Brody can't spell. This one can be quite good, especially in Commander. Counter-target spells, controller may draw up to two cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. You draw a card at the beginning of your next turn's upkeep. If you got Smothering Tide on the board, there's no better spell because this is going to net you treasures on the downside, plus get you a card. It does get your opponent to draw a couple extra cards, but if you can force them to pay for that with a little bit of card draw shenanigans, maybe you've got a Bowmasters on board that's going to ping something and they're not going to want to draw those cards. That could be an option for you. Perhaps the straight up counter spell is the one you want to play. Spell Pierce. This seems a lot of play. It's 1 mana and it's instant speed. Counter target non creature spell unless its controller pays 2. And for just 1 mana, you get to counter non creature spells. We just talk about the spell Stutter Straight. Go nuts for donuts. Dual Brain says definitely subbing to PSA through game. Definitely subbing to PSA. Oh, Dual Brain's got a comment on the PSA submissions over at GameStop. Subbing to PSA through GameStop is good for people like you, Brody. I'm at work and AFK. It's going to be interesting to see if I find a GameStop in Canada that's going to accept card submissions and send them over the border. The price to pay for over the seas or over border shipping plus insurance is quite hefty. So I've been kind of reluctant to send individual cards over to PSA myself. Mana Leak. All right. This is a leaker. Just like Spell Pierce, Mana Leak looks to counter your opponent's spells through taxes. However, one more mana you can counter any spell, and your opponents just now pay 3. Stubborn Denial is another card that's good in creature-based decks. If you're playing like the Tasigur deck, where you've got a big general, the 1 mana Stubborn Denial can also be a pretty decent option for counter spells. Mana Leak's better than Spell Pierce for having fewer restrictions, and it's one of the higher mana costs, which would be enough to set back your own plans because it costs 2 mana. You could just play Counterspell or something similar from Dustborn House of Horrors like Don't Make a Sound, which allows you to surveil 2 if your counter fails. But how about this card, Spelljack? This might be a buy. It's expensive. Okay, so the person on the card, is that Zur? I'm thinking it is Zur. Okay, somebody shout me out here. Who is on the card of? Is this Zur the Enchanter? I sort of thought it was. The barefoot is kind of a bit of a telling tale sign of a. Maybe his name's Jack. Maybe he's just up the beanstalk. Maybe this is Jack up the beanstalk. But I think it's Zur the Enchanter. For the 6 mana spell, you get to counter target spell, and if it's countered this way, remove it from the game instead of putting it in its owner's graveyard, so it gets rid of your opponent's shenanigans. Kind of expensive to cast it. And as long as it remains removed from the game you may play it as though it were in your hand without paying its mana cost. If X is X, it's 0. So this thing, Spelljack. Reminds me of a movie from the 90s. New Jack City, Spelljack City. Your opponent's ever played a card you said, man, I wish I could play this instead. This commandeers your opponent's spell for a later turn. Well, now you can, for 6 mana, of course, while its mana value is one of the highest on the list at 6, It can be a little bit more beneficial to pass the turn and keep your lands open, especially if your opponent's playing cards like Ulamog the Defiler. Oh, so a big Eldrazi, you don't want to play this on something linky dinky. You want to play this on somebody's bomb, right? On their Ulamog, on their finisher, on something that's cost a lot they put into it. 6 mana to Spelljack and Ulamog seems okay because it exiles that spell. But if you want to incite a little more chaos in the game, your deck's got access to red. You can even play Invert Polarity. Choose target spell, flip a coin, and if you win the flip, gain control of that spell. Here's a card that a buddy D'Altagnan is playing. Bolt Bend. Okay, here's another suggestion. No, 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 no. Stop, stop, stop. Stop, stop, stop. What's going on here? Stop it. Bolt Bend. Boltbend. Have you guys heard of this card? It's from War of the Spark. I thought it was quite good. I wasn't expecting it. But check out this card. The War of the Spark, if we're talking counter spells and alternate counter spells, the foil version is another very, very good card from War of the Spark, especially in red. It quite fits the suit. We've got Deflecting SWAT. We've got the Izzet decks, Niv Mizzet decks. We've got the blue variants of decks that also play permission. The Bolt Bend is quite good, and it says this card costs 3 less to cast if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. So it costs 1 mana if you have a 4 power creature on board. If you're playing Niv Mizzet, if you got a commander with 4 power, if you got something on the battlefield, maybe Harum and Timnah, who's a 4/5, I think. This card costs 1 mana. It's instant speed, and you get to change the target of a spell or ability with a single target. An unheard of card that maybe makes some players scratch their heads. The Bolt Bend is quite a good card. I would pick this up. When we're talking counter spells and alternates for your counter spell matchup and your counter spell deck, I would suggest to my friends over at the stock desk to consider this card. The War of the Spark version. This one costs $18. I'm just going to take a zoom out, take a look at the chart on this. It seems like it's getting a little bit more traction, right? It's $3.50 right now. Quite cheap. It's never been lower. This card is a grower and it's a shower. It seems to be moving up in price and the sower of sorrows to your opponents who are trying to target your stuff. It's never been higher. It's $3.50. This one's clearly a buy. If you like commander cards and you like countering spells, I want to look at the foil version. This one, it could be the Way of the Spark, the War of the Spark. These foil uncommons are really quite good. Another banger of a card like Mayhem Devil that just seen a reprint. That card was like 18 or $22 for the foil version of War of the Spark. And uncommon at $18 seems quite uncommon in the world of Magic the Gathering. Let me take just a look at Mayhem Devil because it just got a reprint. I want to see the War of the Spark version to see how it's hanging in. It's $1 uncommon. The foil version, this thing was up to $30 at one time, if I'm not mistaken. It just saw a reprint. Maybe it's fallen out of favor in recent times. So yes, you can see this one hit $20, is now zooming and looming down in price. It's never been unpopular, but it's quite a good card when we're talking. I love the foil uncommons that make and break sets to be good. A little bit more reason to have some value in that sealed box of War of the Spark. A card like Bolt Bent, a card like the Mayhem Devil are all good reasons for the box price of certain sets to go up in price. And why not the War of the Spark? We're talking counter spells and different. Oh, what the hell? We're talking counter spell and different options for you and your shell. This one's a color pie breaking spell from Mirage Block that allows you to counter creature spell for 2 mana and 3 life. It's counter spell in black. If you guys haven't seen it, this one's Withering Boon, and it makes a great inclusion in any black deck. Well, black has a lot of creature removal at its disposal. Countering spells is not usually the thing that it does, and it's possible to thwart off any ETB effects that your opponents might be trying to get out of casting those creature spells. Withering Boon's price has slowly crept up over the last couple of months, but it currently sits around $6.50. I want to take a look at the Boon and the bolt off to the Bolt Bend. Let's go over to the Bolt Bin and look for a 9/16. Bolt Bend and Withering Boon. How many printings has this had? One ever in its entire life. It's only had one, and I might show you a little bit of an Easter egg here. This one has a penis. Don't look too hard. This one has got some Rob Bliss art on it. It's got a little dangly thing on it, and this thing probably won't see a reprint ever just because this art is a little bit chaotic. It's got some kind of a life for life. This is Immutable Law, Panya, the Granger Guildmage. This theme of it's almost like the Cyclops card. I think it can do Cyclops. I know I'm going to spell that wrong. Cyclops. Where's the Cyclops? Do 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 do. Putrid Cyclops, Blood Hulking Cyclops, Erratic Cyclops, Quakefoot Cyclops, Ill-Tempered Cyclops. Where's the Cyclops? Mix this Cyclops chain with Piston Fist. It couldn't do Cyclops. That's how you spell it. Spelling bee here this morning. How do you spell Ukundu? All right, this is some more Robert Bliss art, and this thing's got a dangly thing on it too. So the this is also a Mirage card. So some interesting facts about this period of time. The Ukundu Cyclops, not such a great card, 23 cents, but a similar art on it. If we're ever going to get a reprint of this card, which only has one printing, this thing's $6.70. It's an uncommon for Mirage. This art is probably not ever going to see a reprint just because of the way it looks. I think it's fine, but is it PG? Maybe, maybe not. A little Easter egg for you here this morning. The Withering Boon is a counter spell. It's going up in price. I would catch this one before it goes too far. If you can find it at a vendor store, there's another way to do it. Is there anybody tuning in from Canada here? I want to show you an interesting site. It's a Canadian site. Any Canadians in the stream? I'm up in Canada. Snapcaster.ca. If you're from Canada.ca, this is a place where you can go. I wish somebody else would make a site like this. Snapcaster.ca. This one is a great site. It searches all the vendors that have online stores to find their inventory and rank them by price so you can find the cheapest price. So this is it's a web crawler for Magic the Gathering singles. If you're looking to buy a certain particular Magic card and you want to see what all the stores in Canada have for sale, this will pull their inventory and it'll tell you who's got the cheapest one. Snapcaster.ca. I've been using this to source Magic cards. It's quite interesting. You can see that this one here, we got a $3 version of the same card. Put in any card, and then you can see the inventory of all cards across Canada. So snapcaster.ca will search Lorcana and Magic the Gathering. Quite an interesting site. I like it, and the price is just right if you want to find that Magic card. What else we got for Commander counter spells? So Withering Boom, Spelljack, and the red cards that hate blue. We didn't see Bolt Bend on this list, but there are a few red counters that only counter blue spells, like the Red Elemental Blast and the Pyro Blast, which can either go really great or horribly depending on what your opponents are playing. So there's a real bummer with the Blue Elemental Blast that's been sitting in your hand for 3 or 4 turns against a table of mono blue or mono green opponents. In addition to the Red Elemental Blast and Pyro Blast, which are close to the same card, there's Guttural Response and Burnout, which all target permanent specific, color specific spells. What makes Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast great is their ability to also destroy permanents. So even though something is not counterable, so like say a Niv Mizzet, the spell can't be countered, a Hullbreaker Horror or something, the spell can't be countered, you can still destroy it with the blast. So that's kind of a get around, go around upside to the 1-mana blast cards. It allows you to easily answer a Rhystic Study that's landed on the board that you weren't able to counter and you want to destroy a turn later. There's even an Alliances card in here called Burnout. Counter target spell if it's blue, and you get to draw a card at the beginning of next turn's upkeep. If you like extra sauce, this one cost you $1.49. The Burnout card, actually quite good. It's not that common. Some of these, let's take a look at Red Elemental Blast. There's been a lot of talk of Soul Ring over the years, but Red Elemental Blast has seen so many reprintings and Hydroblast and Blue Elemental Blast. But look at the beta version of this. As far as evergreen staples, this card in black border is $87 and it's never going to go anywhere. People are going to want a copy of this card. It's still $87 for just a straight up blast. Now, you don't have to play that version. There's plenty of cheaper ones to do it. I think you can get one for $1 or two in other versions, but it's just plays homage to some of the long-term playability of some of these old blast cards. It's a good option to put that into your deck. And while blue also has counter spells and green has counter spells, the blue elemental blast and flash freeze. Here's a card that I'm not familiar with. Counter target red or green spell. There's even a few more that I haven't heard of. They're not worth it due to the fact that blue has more options when it comes to counter spells. So the 1 mana Hydroblast, Pyroblast package and the red elemental blast can be quite good. Here's an interesting card. I opened this in a package of antiquities in a break, I think it was. And this was one of the cards that has interesting art on it. And this is an instant card. And it's so funny because I don't know how many people are going to want to play this. But in a meta where rocks were good, such as like Sol Ring. Now we don't have Jeweled Lotus, but the Mana Crypt. There's a lot of good targets for this 1 mana red spell out there. Even the One Ring is a total. Looking for a cheap response to the One Ring? This one could have it. It's a red instant that's got a great and unexpected answer to any artifact. It's got the big threats like Bolus the Citadel to target, and the powerful common Soul Ring, one that can curtail your opponent's momentum efficiently. The Artifact Blast got the same mana as you've got basically annul in blue for artifacts and enchantments, even though you've got the Artifact Blast. This thing is seems to tick up in price. It's an older card. It's got eyeballs on it, so anybody who, if you like to have your eye on this card, maybe the Artifact Blast is an unconventional addition to your commander deck. And if you're not certain about that card, you may have had a lapse of certainty because this card here is white and it's counterspell and it's not in the color pie. So we're breaking the color pie here this morning. Speaking of waffles, pie, a little bit of coffee. Mana Tithe is not your only option for countering spells in white. This one's lapse of certainty, and it costs a white and 2, and you can counter a spell, and if that spell is countered, you put it on the top of its owner's library instead of into the graveyard. When it comes to counter spells, since Mana Tithe's 1 mana tax doesn't really give your opponents that much of a deterrent unless it's on the very first turn of the game, lapse of certainty counters fully the spell, but it puts it on the top of their library, usually just slowing them down for a turn. But if you can force a shuffle to get that back into the deck, maybe they can have a permanent lapse of memory. I usually shy away from cards like this since you're not dealing with the issue on delaying it, though it's still better than answer the Mana Tithe if you're playing the white deck. The lapse of certainty, maybe a Boros deck and you're playing Soldier of Fortune, you can make your opponent shuffle it away. Soldier of Fortune? Quite a funny card. I would like to play it in a deck that makes people shuffle. Quite a cool card from Alliances. Here's a card that I think the game designers said they will never print a card like this again. An uncommon card. It's got interesting. It's got some Fabrizio art on it. All right, 1/1, and target player shuffles his or her library. This card just takes the game to a grinding halt, makes people slows down the game. If ever somebody's putting something on top of their deck, perhaps in Commander where this is legal, and tutors that put worldly creatures on top of the deck, vamp tutors that put cards on top of the deck. The Soldier of Fortune might be an option for 1 mana on a turn 1 play that can be disruptive, and it might even be an option to fill out your memory lapse of uncertainty and make it a little bit better. Here's a card I had to look up and had to read a little bit. Reinterpret, okay? From my perspective, Reinterpret is one of the best counter spells as the decks can run, and it's a single printing in Commander 21, and it's even more surprisingly from what this card allows you to do. For 4 mana, not only it counters your opponent's spells, it also allows you to cast any spell so long as its mana value is less. Now, it's a hefty cost to pay at 4 mana, but look on the bright side. If your opponent plays a spell with mana 4 or greater, you lose very little by holding this back, and your throws of chaos other than mana spells can be other than mana cheat spells. This makes it a perfect inclusion into Stella wildcard decks that look to cast 2 spells a turn. It's only played in 1% of the decks at 60 cents. And for a red and a blue and 2, you get to counter a spell and cast a spell with equal or lesser mana value from your hand without paying its mana cost. So you can get off a second spell if you want to cast Reinterpret. So maybe wait to hold this up on something that's a little better. I believe timing restrictions do matter. So you can, yes, timing restrictions are going to matter. So casting permanents on your opponent's turn may be out of the question. But I want to give a shout out to Casper, graduate of Western Connecticut State University, been playing Magic since War of the Spark. A great article here, and thank you for writing it. I enjoyed reading it today. I've been finding EDH and friendships in multiplayer formats and not playing Magic the Gathering and building decks. Probably found working on his Mustang. Cool. Interesting article. Thank you for that one. Casper the Friendly Ghost. It could never be more appropriate to have an article like that read today on the Magic Gathering stream here. We talk Magic cards, we talk shop, we talk prices and what's moving the world of cards, cardboard, quadrilaterals, and cardboard accessories. Maybe one more quick news article for you folks today before we head out for the rest of our day. Let's take a look here. When we're talking prices and we're talking spikes and we're talking the move of the prices on Magic the Gathering, this card article couldn't be more appropriate. The Future Sight frame card that's gone up 400% is the Rot Hulk. The Zombie 5/5 costs 7 mana. Why is this card going up so high in price? Well, every once in a while, an entire treatment gets a boost in value because this recently happened in the Showcase Scrolls and the borderless poster cards from the special edition Lord of the Rings selector boosters. These cards were incredibly limited in quantity. So while the market began to dry up, skyrocketing the prices, the same appears to be happening with Future Sight cards that all appear in Mystery Boosters 2. People seem to like the Future Sight border more and more as time goes on. This reminds me of the time of Tarmogoyf, and this was the one to have in the Future Sight border. The foils are going a little bit more crazy, but now the non-foil versions seem to be spiking a little bit more in price. Elvish Reclaimer Boy has seen a huge spike this week. Only variant pictured above in the Future Sight foil, and this card's only available in mystery boosters where you can find one Future Sight frame in each pack. The issue with the Mystery Booster 2 boxes are they're hard to get access to, and you won't be able to find this at your local store, but somewhere like Walmart might have it. You must find it at a Magic Con event or purchase it at Festival in a Box from Secret Lair. So when the Festival in a Box went shipping out, the marketplace experienced a flood of Mystery Booster 2. Following this, players quickly began buying up the Future Sight frame cards that they wanted and dwindling the limited supply. As usual, this caused the price of many Future Sight frame cards to absolutely skyrocket. And the Reclaimer is a bit of a weird case because among the Future Sight frames that are spiking, this card appears to be going for about 14 to 15 bucks at the moment. And there's a few outliers where sales went for $40. Like many of the Future Sight frame cards appearing in Mr. Booster 2, the Reclaimer is primarily a legacy staple. Sees play in Cradle Control, Lands decks. Reclaimer can even be played in a commander build, but it's most popular in Legacy Lands, combined with the Gaia's Cradle, Merit Lage, and the Dark Depths Thespian Stage combo to get your opponents smacked in the face with the 2020 as quickly as possible. So some other cards that are spiking in the Future Sight border. Might want to keep your eye out for some of these. The Dark Ritual, the common card, also spiking in place. The other card that sees play in Legacy, which is the Dark Ritual, is going to be going up in the Future Sight frame. It went from nearly $9 at the end of September, and now it's going between 12 and 20 bucks. The Commander Dark Ritual also sees play in competitive decks. So the Rock Hulk is the card that sees Commander play and has increased from $4 to $20 from the Future Sight frame. The card routinely sees play in zombie decks, but fails to see much play anywhere else. Notably, the Rock Hulk only has 2 printings, including this one, and both are printed in sets that did not get a proper print run, which means that the card's quite rare. Norwood Priestess, another Future Sight frame card that's seen a spike from the Mystery Booster. This card doesn't really see a ton of play anywhere. Why haven't I heard of this? These Future Sight frames that are only available in the Mystery Boosters. It's kind of like a clever person went out there and started buying up the singles before anybody notices. It spiked the market. So if you see your hands, get your hands on some of these Future Sight versions, especially the Rot Hulk and the Reclaimer, that might be a rarity and an oddity to play for some of you folks who likes rare cardboard. Well, I want to thank you folks for joining me here. It's October the 16th, 2024. We're doing a little bit of Magic the Gathering stream here. We're going to head on out the door here for your day. Everybody's welcome to join us, so thank you for doing it. You like costly cardboard quadrilaterals? You like cracking packs and shuffling stacks? You like tracking the prices of Magic cards? Is there enough information out there, or is there just too much gall darn information? Let me do it for you. If you got nothing better to do, you can join me on the morning stream when we're doing it. Make sure you check out some of my other stuff, videos, shorts, and a few other shorts, long pants, corduroy jeans, and just like a corduroy pillow, these are your Magic the Gathering headlines that have been made over the night. Thanks again for joining me. We'll talk to you again real soon, and I hope you have a smooth day, everybody. Cops are at the door. We've got the Pinkertons coming to shut the stream down. Let's get out of here.